Secretary Bryson, Dr. Pachauri, Dr. Annapurna Vancheshwaran, leaders from the business community, ladies and gentlemen. I think I should begin where Secretary Bryson left off and congratulate Terry for organizing the 14th edition of the Delhi Sustainable Development Summit, an event that has grown to become a preeminent gathering for deliberations on the most important environmental and development-related challenges of our time. I should say, however, that I'm singularly unqualified to represent the government here on this subject. I think my good friend Dr. Pachauri has taken the approach that since he can't get the right minister, he'll settle for the wrong one, and so here I am. It's the old song from my teenage years, if you can't be with the one you love, love the one you're with. So I accept your love, Pachi, but I do want to say, though, that as I share Secretary Bryson's skepticism about the willingness of the political establishment to understand and grapple with these issues, that it is satisfying to me as a freshman minister, as it were, to see the business community so actively engaged in the challenge of leading India's energy, water, and food security. Now, for all the progress we've made as the human race since the dawn of history, in May last year, we crossed a dubious landmark when the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii recorded that the Earth's CO2 levels crossed 400 parts per million, a level not recorded since prehistoric times. And this growing evidence of climate change manifests along with, as well as reinforces, the challenges of securing food, water, and energy. The water-food-energy nexus demands innovative, integrated, and interdisciplinary solutions. In India, home to over a sixth of humanity and growing, it's imperative that our brightest minds from all fields, not just science, but economics, law, and the creative arts as well, come together to pool their talents to set us on a path for sustainable growth. And in keeping with the traditions of DSDS, I believe discussions on the role of businesses in ensuring India's energy, water, and food security are absolutely essential to any meaningful quest for solutions. The need for access to sustainable energy, access to water, and food security in India gains greater significance when you acknowledge that these are prerequisites for drawing the greatest possible benefit from India's demographic dividend. With 600 million people below the age of 25 and 225 million in the age group of 10 to 19, ensuring that our population has access to food is an important priority for our government. The National Food Security Act last year, passed by the Parliament in the current session, in fact, is a step in the direction of expanding the definition of food security from just producing food to actually getting it to the people. But once they eat, what else can they look forward to? The International Labour Organization predicts that by 2020, India will have 116 million people in the age bracket of 20 to 24 years. To train as well as to absorb this growing workforce in an expanding economy, we need to lay the foundations for sustainable energy for decades to come. As far as water is concerned, its importance cannot be emphasized enough. It's a driving force behind the destiny of civilizations, with an impact on every aspect of governance, from external affairs to economic sustenance to political relationships and social systems. The scarcity of water has a strong correlation with epidemics, social unrest, and of course it's widely predicted that water could be a leading cause of future conflict amongst nations. With developing countries in South Asia amongst the most vulnerable to the crisis of resources and the impact of climate change, issues of food security or water scarcity in our neighboring countries can also pose a significant strain on India's prospects. India's position of responsibility in groups such as the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, or BIMSTEC, and of course the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, makes it all the more important for us to have a clear long-term strategy for securing sustainable natural resources. The corporate sector, I think, stands to make the biggest gains if it can complement the government's efforts in providing these prerequisites. After all, for businesses to thrive, the sector needs an able workforce that is not anxious about securing food, water, and energy. More significantly, a society secure on these counts offers the ideal market and a strong customer base that are imperative for the sustainability of business itself. We should not forget that a few years ago, amongst the catalysts for the Arab Spring were unaffordable food prices and riots that broke out across many Arab countries because of the scarcity of bread. Looking beyond the paradigm of social stability, energy, water, and food are critical inputs for almost every industry. And therefore, the motivation for environmental stewardship must extend on a more mundane level to all types of business too. Specifically to India, the recent Companies Act last year is one such landmark attempt by the UPA government that allows the private sector to leverage corporate social responsibility as an instrument that can complement government policies to achieve the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs. Besides working towards developing new business models that have positive externalities or are based on concepts such as regenerative sustainability, the business sector has a tremendous wealth of expertise and practical tools to offer as a solution to development challenges. For instance, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food says that a quantity of food equivalent to the entire food production of sub-Saharan Africa is just thrown away each year. The Economist magazine estimates that India allows more fruit and vegetables to rot every year than the whole of Australia grows. While food wastage in developing countries like ours occurs because of constraints on storage facilities and supply chains, in developed countries, of course, large amounts of food are even discarded before it can be consumed. The corporate sector, with your experience in implementing Six Sigma techniques, lean management, developing strategies for mitigating risk, developing logical supply chains, and so on, and accelerating growth, can play a vital role in fine-tuning practical and effective approaches to meet such challenges. In addition to improving efficiencies, the private sector has a key part to play in promoting the right solutions by financing investments in renewables, in low-carbon technologies, and in solutions-oriented research. Such investments are imperative for creating a diversified energy mix that will sustain India's economic growth while strengthening our country's geopolitical position. Take the example of the USA, where the unconventional gas revolution, shale gas, has reduced their reliance on oil imports from the Middle East. Of course, fracking is still a highly contentious issue, but the USA has benefited from the advanced technological prowess of oil and gas companies. And at the same time, the prices of solar power in the US has reduced significantly, with businesses such as Walmart amongst the biggest investors in renewable energy infrastructure. India, too, must benefit from the capabilities of international and domestic business. With nearly 80% of India's crude oil requirements imported, there is a clear opportunity for business to thrive on clean energy and energy efficiency. Pax Indica, if I can borrow the title of my own last book, can only be built on foundations of sustainable businesses and cultural practices. Combining expertise and the capacity to finance infrastructure, the business sector can make significant contributions also through the public-private partnership mode, PPP model. For example, the International Finance Corporation estimates that reports, in fact, that a PPP for a water irrigation system in Morocco Gerdan, I believe it is called, benefited over 1,900 farmers, safeguarded the citrus crop industry, and reduced the stress on an overexploited aquifer where almost 25% of the farmland had turned non-productive. Another kind of key contribution that businesses can make is in collaborating with our universities and financing research aimed at frankly, improving the optimum use of resources. The government is playing its part by improving environmental education and the capacity of our institutions of research and development. While we progress, it is important to create better research facilities that will help us contain our carbon footprint. Given that we physically account for 17% of the world's brains, while contributing merely 4% of the world's pollution, there is no reason why we're only producing 2.1% of the globe's research output. This is something that all of you and your businesses can help improve. And with the state enabling enterprises and businesses to play a prominent role in the economy, the need for them to contribute solutions for the future is irrefutable. From a global perspective, there are few groups that have the global presence that are similar to those enjoyed by Fortune 500 companies, many which have resources that exceed that of most of the world's governments. With larger companies operating through complex supply chains, comprising of several smaller enterprises, the calls for more comprehensive resource efficiency are inescapable. By taking on the role of environmental stewardship to ensure that key inputs for business, water, energy, and food, are conserved across the value chain and beyond operations, the business sector will have to play a leading role in India's efforts to achieve energy, water, and food security. Thank you. Good luck in fulfilling that objective, and Jai Hind.